Everyone, this is Jenny, and I'm going to share a layout I did for the Scrap Our Stash Back to School blog hop. It's the ABC-123 Back to School, and that means that they did a really neat thing where each of the design team members were given two letters and one of the sketches. That's the sketch I chose now, and my two letters were S and T for stencils and tags, and we were supposed to use those in conjunction with the sketch to come up with our layout. So I'm going to go through the products real quick. This is the sketch, and I was just trying to decide whether I wanted to flip it or not. Sorry again about the color distortion there. It'll go back to normal in a minute. So I'm flipping through some of these pages. I had a little bit of an idea what I wanted to do because of the color of my photo, which you'll see in a minute. This is some Studio Calico vellum that's sort of a ombre from yellow to red that's striped. That's really neat. And this is the Finley collection from Glitz that I use. Most of the paper comes from. And I decided this piece would be great as the background because it's already got a built-in sort of angle to it, like the sketch triangles. I actually struggled with this sketch a lot because I didn't want to complicate it too much with too many patterns, and you'll see how I kind of went around that by using vellum. So these were the other pieces I had pulled. This other piece from that Finley collection, this piece from the Lucky Charm collection. And this is the stencil I'm going to use. It's by Heidi Swap. It's just a 6x6. And then these are the letter stickers I used, and I couldn't decide whether I was going to do some stenciling on make my own tags or what. I ended up not using any of these stamps from Ellie Studio as it turned out. But I did use some of those stickers from Jenni Bolin, and then this is, I used a couple of those stars. That was a little sample of one of the pieces of paper I thought might look kind of neat with this color. It's actually a peach color, but it looked sort of coppery on that green, and I really like the way it turned out. That's the photograph I'm going to scrap. It's of my son's little radio flyer trike that he still rides, but he's way too big for it. I really love those filter films, but I just I can't. I don't know why, I just couldn't get myself to put it on top of it. I did use it behind it. So this is my little bucket of tags, everything I pulled, and some of it I do use, and some of it I don't. I did use that. That's a basic gray. I believe it's the Carte Postale collection with that little pocket. And I have some other bits and pieces, some of these neat canvas tags that are little yellow bicycle. And I don't believe I used that flare. I used another piece that came from a really old kit. These were some neat little canvas already stitched letters that I thought I might spell out, but I didn't really like the way that canvas looked. It looked a little bit too rustic for the way the page turned out. So, and I've got some of those star paper clips that are exclusive to 2Ps. So I'm going to sort of fiddle around with all of that for a minute and try to figure out what I'm going to do. And to be honest, this is a longer video because I did struggle with it. It was hard for me to kind of come up with a plan that I really liked, and I went back and forth with trying to use something different for the triangles in the sketch, maybe hearts, or use the tags as the actual triangles, but I couldn't. I just couldn't get happy with it. So it does take a little while. But here I'm going to speed it up a bit, and I'll talk through a little bit of my process. I decided to use this to help sort of ground the base with these angles on it. And at first I was going to mist and sort of use the stencil for all the tags, and then I ended up using it for the backdrop. So I'm just kind of flipping through here, trying to get an idea of how I'm going to lay it out based on the sketch. I'm pretty much adhere to the sketch. I just couldn't decide whether I really wanted to use the triangles or not. Like I said, I didn't want to take too much away from the photo, and I just constantly try to make things more complicated than they are. I love that vellum because it had the red in it too, and I love that color, that sort of bright chartreusey green, and that just went great with the bike. But so I'm going to fiddle around with this for quite a while, and then I will go through my stenciling process with the mist, and you'll see I should have cut out a bunch of it, but you know what? Everybody makes mistakes, so I just left it in there, and maybe everyone can learn from my mistake. I love that tag pocket because it had that chartreusey color on there too, so that's why I really wanted to use that. Now I'm trying to decide, maybe I could use those vellum slide sort of filters as the triangles, and thought about cutting them, but they were square and I didn't want to cut off too much of it. I don't know whether I really limited myself by actually using that paper or whether it helped, but alright, so here's where you can learn from my mistake. I think it is. I decided to go ahead and use this mist, but I wanted to cover up my I wanted to cover up the the other parts I didn't mist. So I was going to tape this down, and I just got really impatient, and it would have been fine, it just didn't turn out to have the look I wanted. So I taped it down with washi really good and used the mist, and this Color Shine, which is my favorite mist by far, is wonderful, except that you really need to shake it up each time in between, and I've seen Heidi Swap do a see, I didn't put my masking back on, and I hated the way that turned out. I really wanted it to be clean and just that to be as a pattern in the background. So I've seen Heidi Swap do a sort of tutorial where she uses the Color Shine, and she constantly is moving it while she's using it around there. So this is where I went back again. I masked everything off, and I just did it in 4 different sections since it's a 6x6. I probably should have cleaned off the template in between, but I was too lazy for that. I did get some lines from the seam of it, but that didn't bother me as much as the complete overspray that I had before. I thought that might look kind of cool to stamp that on there, but so I'm going to clean that up, and luckily I had 2 pieces of that paper because I really liked it after that point, and I do like the way the peach color turned out. It sort of blended in with the red, and it popped on the other colors. So instead of, and it totally stained my fingers, but instead of cutting that out and letting you think that I really did do the stenciling that way from the beginning, I thought I'd just show, how everybody does make mistakes and learns from them, and next time I'll either go with the rustic look or I'll try to be more meticulous about my masking to begin with. Not that it really would have made too much difference maybe when it all came out, but I really wanted it to be a lot cleaner than that, since that was part of the challenge was the stencil. So I decided I'm going to use vellum for the majority of the triangles, and I end up layering them with some of that other vellum from Studio Calico, the stripe. That way I could get that vellum and it would show up good on top of this paper and on top of the stenciling, but it would not take too much away from the tags and the other things that I wanted to show. I have a really, I just always put my photos on pop dots. I always do it because I think that it really obviously pops the picture up, which makes it a little bit more of the focus. And I love the layering, and sometimes I'll pop other things up too, but always the photos. I just, unless it's going to be something really thin, I really like that dimension. So here I'm laying out the triangles basically exactly like the sketch was, and I decided I'm going to use some of those triangles up there too. I throw in a little piece of that other Finley paper. I had thought about trying to cut, if I hadn't messed up, I was going to cut the exact same triangles out of this same paper and have it all line up so you saw the shape and maybe the shadow of the line, but you didn't perceive it as a different color, if that makes sense. And maybe stitch around it and have that be the only bit. So the sketch has either a circle or like a dashed line that's drawn around it, and I decided that I was going to use my title in this arc. I'd kind of laid that out before, so you'll see how I use that in a minute. I'm going to go ahead and just let you listen to some music and stop talking for a little bit, and I'll come back in a minute. Okay, I thought I would talk through a little bit of this last bit process. I decided to do the stars and the title in this arc, like the sketch, which I love the way it came out as far as the little stamping goes. And I thought for some reason those letters were rub-ons, and I was a little worried about the sort of texture differences in the vellum and how that was all going to work out. But they're not, they're stickers, and I love that font. I love them. So I did mess up a little on the stars because I got a little anxious and started erasing and did some smudging, and you know what, that's what extra stars are to cover up with, so that's why I put that little red star in that bottom corner. I tied some twine to my tags, and you'll see I go back and stencil on another one of these tags. I felt kind of like I should have had more tags since that was part of the whole challenge, but I really, the ones that were there were, you know, important. They held the journaling and this other piece of stenciling that I really liked the way it came out. The whole journaling and the idea about the title and everything came from the fact that this is the little radio flyer that was actually given to us from my godson after he got too big for it. And my son, when he first got it, he couldn't reach the pedals at all, and he just sat on it, and my daughter stood on the little step behind it and pushed him, and now they roll down the hill with it without touching the pedals because their feet are way too long. And I swear it just seems like it was yesterday, and time is really flying, and we just seem to be, it just seems accelerated, and I guess that's part of getting old and just watching everything go by. So I just thought it would be kind of a neat little tie-in with the radio flyer and time flying by. So I'm just going to finish up, and I'm still trying to cover up a couple little boo-boos from that erasing of the pencil marks around that, and the ink wasn't dry, and I just got impatient. So I'm going to finish that up, and then at the last minute I kind of decided that this canvas tag that I had in there, I didn't want to write on because I was worried about it bleeding, so I put my journaling on that LA Studio tag. But I thought the canvas tag, since the rest of it was kind of creamy, I thought it needed something. So I pulled out another stencil that's a Studio Calico, sort of like elongated hexagon stencil, and I used some Distress inks and sponge daubed it on there, and I really love the way it came out. In fact, I kind of wish I would have done some more of that, or maybe we'll definitely use that in the future. So I just sort of did a gradation of the blue to green, and you can't really see much of it when it's tucked down in there, but it's a neat thing to pull out, and it does add a little bit of a color to it. So that's just a chalk ink, which I think is great for those, and then the other one is a Distress ink, and I really wasn't trying to blend it too much. I was just trying to kind of match a little bit of the colors that were there, and it just sort of turned out to be blended a little bit. I thought about trying to do something on top of that, but I was worried that I would end up bleeding through it, and then that's the only one I had that was that large. So anyway, that's the rest of that. And I believe that's pretty much it. I had written the date on part of that little pocket that was the basic gray one, and after tucking that in there, I think that's it. You can see the close-ups here and the final product at the end. Thanks so much for watching. I would love any feedback or comments that you might have, and be sure to visit the Scrap Our Stash blog hop and all of the other designers and their websites for their takes on their challenges. It's a really neat challenge to go from A to Z like that, and I can't wait to see what everyone comes up with. Thanks so much. Bye.